Good morning.
Check, check.
I briefly saw you, Derek, and I can hear you. And I see Stephen.
Good morning.
Morning.
So your daughter is safely and duly married, Derek?
Yeah, she is.
Deep sigh. Not necessarily a relief.
No, it's all good. It's good.
I'll be back in just a second. I see Brian, I see Stephen. We have two NRE labs. There's one Matt and one Derek.
I shouldn't be NRE Labs, but maybe I am. I'm logged in as myself in Google.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You think what's true?
I think we're both logged in as NRE Labs because I see two and one's me.
All right, sounds good. Okay. Well, should we get started? Are we waiting for anyone else, or? Everyone is muted except for me.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
All right.
And Packet Pushers usually joins.
Drew sent an email saying he couldn't join today. I'm not sure about it, Ethan, but.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping Olivia would join because I have questions for him. But it might be worth just talking through his comments as a group in any case.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd it go? There we go. So just as a very quick update for those who've not been following along at home, we have sent an application to the Software Freedom Conservancy to put the project under their auspices. They said that they will not be reviewing it until early September, so that's just kind of the time frame that we're looking at. So that's that, but that is happening in parallel. And let's see, I'm trying to figure out how we get back to, here we go. Where are Olivier's comments? Why am I not finding them?
So that was the Software Conservancy.
Software Freedom Conservancy.
And what are we asking them for?
So they're a 501(c), which is a nonprofit that they're not quite like a foundation like Linux Foundation or Apache Foundation. They're not quite as full service as that. But they will allow us to, they would take title to logos and trademarks and URLs and things like that, and be an independent neutral party for receiving funds, and just in general, provide a neutral place for the project to grow.
What is our relation? I mean, what is that called? Like when are we a client of them? Or are we a project?
They have a term for it. Let me see if I think we would just be a project under them.
To be reviewed beginning of September.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm not finding Olivier's comments. Matt, why am I not finding Olivier's comments?
Where are you looking?
In the governance doc.
Like the pull request?
Yes.
All right, let me pull it up. Proposals, pull requests. Yeah, it's pull request 1, right? So initial public draft of governance doc.
Yep.
So if you're on the conversation tab, you can see them all in one place.
But there's just me and Steven's comments there.
I just pulled it up fresh, and Olivier's are there.
Let me try again. Oh, yes, there they are. I don't know why they went blue. Okay.
Alternatively, you could go to files changed, and you can see them where they.
Yeah, I don't know. They weren't coming up. Anyway. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Is he back? I don't know what the rules are.
He is back. He is not on this call, but he is back, which is why he has commented.
Yeah.
All right, let's try this again. All right. So let's see. I prefer to see some clear copyright and license heading rather than a sentence in the general section. It almost sounds like what he is actually looking for there is some kind of FAQ. And I think that we do get to that elsewhere, but I don't think that belongs in a governance doc. I don't know if other people have strong feelings about that, but.
I mean, no. I think what he's asking for is just basically like, instead of being buried in a paragraph, it should at least get called out in a section. Like its own section. Like what section is this that you're in right now?
This is in the, let's see. Oh, this is actually another question. This is, here we go. Okay, let's start here. Should the site limit, and this is actually a question for you, Matt.
Sorry.
Should the site lessons limit education to open source tools and techniques, or should it be broader and include proprietary products? I think we already include proprietary products.
Yeah, it's impossible to take a stance here. It's going to have to include both.
Yeah. So I don't think we've said anything one way or the other, have we?
No, not really. We've mostly just been. We know we don't like it if we see. If we don't like it, we'll know it. You know, and if it's okay, we kind of know it too. So it's not really a hard and fast rule on what can and can't be included. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, if you have permission to include it, or if it's possible to include it, and it's being included in a way that doesn't smell bad, then it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. I think, again, it seems like an FAQ kind of question relating to contributions and writing lessons and so forth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not that's answered in the existing contribution docs. I mean,
it is or is not?
Is.
Okay.
I mean, to varying degrees, but yeah. But especially when it comes down to like the kind of contributions that make sense. Like in the section on reviewers and what kind of things they should be on the hunt for. One of the points is, does the contributor have permission to contribute this? You know, so.
Right.
I'm sure that can be expanded, but it's
so
touched on.
Okay, so we'll just say clarify that in the contribution docs. Fine. So I think the reason he commented on this here is because we did not, because we get to the license part later.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be a call to move the license up in the document. I don't agree that we would need a separate governance doc, that we would need to separate the software and curriculum governance documents, because the governance is covering the project as a whole, and this really relates more to administration and who has the right to do what, not just technically, but also with regard to money and things like that. And so that's why we do need one for the project as a whole. Mm-hmm. I think the separate question here is, you know, and we talk about this later on, about having perhaps labeling things core versus experimental right here. Mm-hmm. And it's more about prioritization of commits. I think that's, I mean, I don't know. Are there other suggestions that would make that more clear about how we could phrase that?
Is that where his concern originates? Is those two terms? Well,
he says, what if I want to contribute to something that has no value to the platform that has no value to the curriculum?
Yeah, I'm not.
As long as it doesn't break things. Yeah,
basically. I mean, like that's not a problem. I don't see that being a problem, not for the even remotely near future, because like if we introduced a cool new feature to Antidote, and this has happened before, in fact, where we introduced features into Antidote that the curriculum just doesn't currently make use of, like the iframes stuff as an example. Like no lesson really uses that right now. But the reason for that is because nobody knows about it, and it had to be in the platform before people could use it. So I'm not worried about his concern there. Usually what has happened in the past and what I expect will happen in the future is, yeah, features will get rolled into the platform, and then the curriculum is going to try to find a way to make use of them. The curriculum's not driving as much as he thinks that it is. In many ways, the curriculum is following the lead that the platform takes. So I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
And yeah, to your point, if it doesn't break anything, and it's done in a way that doesn't just add bloat, it's going to have to be a case by case basis. But in general, I'm just not worried about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we talked about this too, about whether. So I think technical community meetings should all be recorded. That's what this is.
Yeah.
There may be more of a question for steering committee meetings, whether they should be recorded or simply notes made available. I think that, discussing potential sponsors and so forth, that could be a potentially sensitive thing. I don't know that that's necessarily something that would naturally happen in the course of a standard steering committee meeting, which is kind of more, again, kind of administrative. But I can be persuaded either way. And I don't know if other folks, Stephen or others, have strong feelings one way or another.
I don't have strong feelings either. In general, I record unless told otherwise, just because I'd rather have it and not need it. But yeah, I'd be interested in Steven's thoughts, because I'm pretty sure the three of us agree on that.
I don't have strong opinions either. I know if we do record, it would be nice to have mentioned that this is at the beginning of the call, that this is a recorded phone call.
Dude, your commit messages have proper punctuation.
And we appreciate that.
I try.
I had to have that outburst. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Positive outburst. How dare you punctuate your commit messages? So abnormal.
I'm trying to get my coworkers to do proper Git messages as well. Some of them use the same exact commit message every single time.
Oh, I hate that.
And it's really annoying. Yes.
Yeah. Like more?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll happen.
All right, so contributor license agreement is something that we need to write. But basically it's just, something that says it's probably not a contributor license agreement so much as it is I keep wanting to say COD. That's not right. Certificate of, anyway, it basically is just the little thing that developer says, yea, verily, I have the right to contribute this code. And that's a separate thing than necessarily saying the project should hold copyright for all contributions. The lessons will all be under CC BY. So I guess that means that the project holds copyright, but certainly anybody can also do whatever they want with it, with proper attribution if it's under CC BY. And anything that people want to retain private title to, they shouldn't be contributing to, I would think, contributing upstream.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we should add the link to the code of conduct. Privacy policy. We will, again, this is something that we'll need to write. This would actually be referring to also the whatever privacy policy relates to the community and the operations of the community. So not only do we not, so we don't track users of the platform, obviously, although we may make that, you know, an option that users can opt into if they so choose.
Yeah.
And so we would need a privacy policy for that. I haven't really moved forward on writing a privacy policy because the Software Freedom Conservancy does have their own, and it just makes sense to follow that one.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's something specific in it that we want to, you know, exclude or rewrite.
How does since we're using a hosted service for the community forums, and I'm sure they have their own privacy policy.
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact us? Do we just sort of say like, hey, here's their privacy policy, that's what we're using for that portion of the project?
Yeah, that's a good question for legal. I'll have to find out.
The other aspect of that is we've been considering just to get something done with as minimal effort as possible in our conversations about improving the front end. We've been talking about tying in with that platform, which is something that other people have done in other open source projects that I've seen, where they use their discourse forums as sort of like an authentication backend, and then they just build an integration with that on their site. And that's kind of what we would do, where, you know, we wouldn't want to maintain our own authentication system. It's just stuff we don't have to do, basically. Right. But as a result, that means that there's just that much more we're putting on top of the discourse platform. So we should probably get familiar with what their privacy policy is and how it impacts us.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
Still better than running our own off. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a super cool motorcycle guy driving by my house right now. He's so cool.
Okay.
And it's, oh yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right. Terms of use. And that's, if anyone has looked at the terms of use on the platform today, they are profoundly wrong, and they're in the process of being changed.
Yeah, and if never mind, I was going to say something that's probably not a good idea to say. A conversation that Lisa and I had in Sunnyvale last week.
All right, so let's see. And this is where we get back to moving this further up in the dock. All right, so I think that's everything. Stephen, I don't know if you had, I know that I saw that you caught caught the metrics typo. Were there any other comments, or did have any of Olivier's comments spur any further thoughts from you?
I read his comments. I'm not as, a lot of this is legal speak,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's, being a tech guy, I don't have much comments on that.
Okay.
As a contributor to the project, I guess my ask would be that, or my concern would be that if I post, things that I decide not to post, I would still be able to, I can use a platform locally or in, without publishing upstream. So that's where the, I don't know what license we have Antidote under, but I can make changes local. Yeah, Apache. So I can make changes underneath, and as long as I don't copyright those changes, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then any that I contribute, and I agree with Creative Commons.
Yeah, so lessons will be Creative Commons. The platform remains under Apache. But yeah, so it sounds like we're just create a separate FAQ that kind of spells that out in more detail.
Yeah, so I see Olivier's comment about people wanting to reuse the lesson that he created in a class, and that is, I guess that is something to make known, or a concern, that anything we contribute to this project is Creative Commons, so anybody
Mm-hmm.
can therefore use it.
Right.
So I guess calling that out.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, they can. So anybody can, under Creative Commons, anyone can use it for either commercial or non-commercial purposes with the proper attribution. We have also had some VARs who have been interested in getting involved once they get their ducks in a row a little bit more, or training companies who are specifically looking at using the platform as a training platform, and possibly contributing some lessons as well, but also having their own sort of private content that they use to charge money for training for. And that's a perfectly valid use of the platform. So there may be lessons that people write that are not contributed, and that's fine. And they just remain titled to them, retain the title to them because they haven't contributed them. So yeah, I think that's
so anything that's,
yeah, that's perfectly fine.
So anything that's contributed has to be Creative Commons.
Yes. For lessons.
And anything in the curriculum.
Yeah.
Correct. Sorry, anything in the curriculum.
Yeah. Okay.
It's mostly lessons right now, but we have plans to extend that. So I just want to make sure that we were broad enough.
I don't know if we need a separate FAQ specifically on licenses, or if we can just kind of put this into the how to contribute, and just write a section into the how to contribute docs.
Can you say that one more time?
I don't know if we need a separate FAQ just on licenses, or if we can just write in a section how to contribute docs. What do these licenses mean, and how answering exactly these questions.
Docs sounds good to me.
Okay. I like the idea of having it all in one place.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. I will. I'll work with legal to draft up something, and then we can. I'll put in a PR. All right. That's all I had. I don't know if I know Derek, you're just back from your travels. Is there Matt? Is there or Stephen? Is there anything you wanted to discuss on the platform side of things?
I have two really quick things I just kind of want to say as like a quick update. I'm hoping to get one of them done this week. The other one I doubt I will because I'm going to be traveling for the remainder of the week, basically. So, basically, the first thing that I'm hoping to get done really today is I've for a while wanted to extend we actually have a pretty good doc page on how to contribute, how to work with Git generally, like if you're new to pull requests and whatnot. I want to extend that because that still uses like the Git command line client, and not everybody wants to do that. James gave me the idea of doing a walkthrough on how to use the Windows like GUI client, and the GitHub Mac client I think looks similar. So basically, if people want to contribute to the docs or to the one of the proposals, for instance, which are markdown. How do you do that, and how do you learn how to push things there without having to like do everything in the web browser, which kind of can be kind of clunky. So anyway, I was just going to add to that. I know there's folks out there that want to do that that are using Windows or Mac, and they don't necessarily want to break out the command line. So I was going to do a video on that and record that process for how to do that. Also with some pointers to like what restructured text and markdown are and how to write them, because that's kind of cryptic the first time you see it. It's actually pretty simple once you get into it and learn some of the basic rules, but that's one of the biggest hurdles to contributing to things like docs and blogs, which our blogs are written in markdown, things like that. So just demystifying a little bit of that and providing some guidance there. That should be fairly straightforward. I've built a little script for that video. I'm going to hopefully record it here today. The other thing is I started one of the long neglected portions of the docs was the release schedule and release planning portion. I'm now focusing entirely on that. And I'm going to start with basically like what is a high level schedule of a release, like what happens when we initiate a release cycle, what happens basically, holding a session within one of these stand-ups where we say like, okay, this release cycle is kicking off, and then like the next week or so we use as a way of like getting ideas for what to put into the release, and then the week after that, then the stand-up after that, we would sort of quote solidify the plan and then get some sort of a target date on the map. And then building all of the collaboration sort of avenues for that. So I added 2 categories on the community forums called project management -curriculum and then project management -platform, because those 2 have their own release cadences, so they'll be managed separately, and thus the communication will be separate. So anyway, basically spelling out all of that in the docs, outlining like what the process will be, and a little bit more structure, I guess, around that, so that people know what to expect ahead of time. Big reason for that is we sent that notification out saying like, hey, please test this version and so on and so forth. And we only had really a few days to do that, and nobody really saw it coming because it was sort of a last minute thing. And I'd like people to understand exactly when certain things will happen and when to expect it, and put some more structure on like the time frame for things. That way people can know really very certainly where they can expect to contribute to each phase of the release cycle for either the curriculum or the platform. It's kind of the 2 running in parallel. So I am working on that now. Not sure where I'm going to get in the next day or 2 before I have to head out, but that's what I'm working on. And by the way, the mini projects for like making changes, the sort of temporary big efforts that we need to take on for Syringe and Antidote Web and things like that, that's going to get wrapped up in that as well. One of the things that I'm documenting in the release process is, when we tackle, let's say we're starting the release cycle for a new version of the platform, the first step is to basically gather the issues that we feel can get done in the next release. And so there's a bunch of different sources for that. Obviously, existing issues we go through and we do a triage exercise and figure out what's low hanging fruit, what makes sense to try to get done in this release, that kind of stuff. Also, people basically just raising ideas in the week where we do gather those ideas. People just raising them from scratch. That's fine too, obviously. And then the other aspect, and this is specific to the platform because that's where we're doing these little mini projects, is are there any milestones established in the sort of the road to 1.0 plan that need to get done in this time frame? And so those sort of have to get done in that order. So I'll be building basically all of this in parallel. It won't be done until really the whole thing is done because it doesn't make sense to have just part of it. But hopefully I'll be able to dedicate some time to it over the next few weeks. I got like 2 conferences to go to and like 3 slide decks to create.
All right.
Wow, I've been talking on mute. Sorry. I had a question regarding the mini projects.
Yeah.
I noticed in one of the videos that there are 6 or so mini projects planned. Is there any documentation on what those plans are?
Yeah, that's part of what I need to build. We've been talking about it for a long time, and it's been on my plate to actually build those out, and I haven't gotten around to it. What I'm planning on doing is the first 2 are the most urgent. There are a total of 6, but the last 4 are well, we'll get to that. But basically, like the first 2 are the really important ones. The first one is Mini Project 1, which tackles the syringe redesign, and then Mini Project 2, which tackles the front end work. A lot of which we're having done through a contractor that knows what they're doing. But there will be a lot left to do once they're done. Their goal isn't to do all of the work for us. It's actually just to build a better foundation. So they're gonna do all of the really hard like UX stuff and rewriting the application code so that it sort of becomes more easily grokkable and extensible. And then the Mini Project 2 will tackle effectively everything after that. Like, okay, we're on a better footing now. What do we need to do to make this even more awesome? That'll be Mini Project 2. So those 2 things are the most important one. Yeah, basically what I'm going to be doing as part of this release planning is building an overall sort of like road to 1.0 plan. And of course, when I say building, I mean I'm saying building a draft in the same way that we're building a governance draft. So I'll put what I have into words, into a doc, and I'll submit a PR into the proposals repo for everybody to comment on. So I'll do that for just a general high-level 1.0 doc, what needs done in general to get to what we would consider a 1.0. And then those would have references to other docs that focus specifically on each mini project, one for syringe, one for antidote web, and then so on and so forth.
Okay. And then I have a general question regarding, say general, but a question about images and the new iframe exposed port for HTTP web interface. I noticed you have to use the syringe full ref as the root URL for your web pages.
Yeah.
When working with a system that does not expose that web root, example via IDE, which is one lesson I was interested in creating. So I found that Nginx would likely be a good client for proxying or reverse proxying that URL, and having a hard time packaging Nginx into the same Docker container of another service due to the pseudo restrictions, and I don't want to give root in order to run Nginx to the same SSH image that has SSHD. So I was thinking of creating an Nginx image that can then send the request onto the machine, or the image that's the Docker container that's running the service. One, is that doable with the platform, and two, if I do, if we do create an Nginx image, how would we variabilize that so you can have more than one? If you needed to connect to two different web services in the same lesson, the config file is the easy part, but then you would have to have more than one port in order to allow more than one iframe.
You're basically talking about using a single running a container as a proxy and running only that in that container, right? And then having the actual content in some other running container.
Correct.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be easy. I would say let's try to get it working in a single container. That would be operationally the easiest for you to do. What was the problem that you were running into there?
I can't get both services to run at the same time. Even using Supervisor D, I can run Nginx by itself, and I can run SSHD by itself. Running the two combined, Nginx won't start or SSHD won't start.
That's weird. Are they running
Yes.
on the same port or something?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Let's troubleshoot
And it also
that.
makes the image bigger, but yes.
Yeah. Let's troubleshoot that. I'm interested in going forward with that because it's a pretty common thing where if you had like an entity that was running both a web server and a CLI, that you'd want to be able to run both in parallel. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing with the StackStorm image, for instance.
Correct.
So it's definitely doable. I guess we just got to figure out the specifics. If you open a forum thread or something like that and send a link to your Docker file and whatnot, I'll see if I can, or Derek can, depending on which one of us is available. Basically, we'll try to figure this out because I think operationally
Sure.
running it in a single image is still the best bet if we can swing it.
I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else we should cover today, or can we end here?
All's good on my end.
Bueller?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. Oh, Brian, I just realized Brian's on the call and he's been silent this whole time.
Oh,
Hi,
What I
Brian.
was monitoring. Yeah, I'm back from vacation. Just catching up on what's going on.
Cool.
Brian, you guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. I have FRR. I'm just about ready to have that available as a usable image. I'm currently I'm trying to get netconf to work with FRR. There's a plugin for sysrepo to do so that you can use netconf with FRR, but I'm not able to get that work right now. But I have the right people helping me out, so that should be available pretty soon.
That would be great.
All right. And Brian, I know we were sort of scooting through the governance doc fairly quickly with the assumption that other people had already read it. But if you have comments on it, please don't hesitate to throw them in at some point over the next week or so.
Sure.
All right. Welcome back.
Thanks.
All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All
All
right.
right. Bye, everybody.
Take
Talk
care.
soon. Bye.